My girlfriend, Amanda, and I have been together for 4 years, but I've known her for much longer. Amanda has two beautiful twin boys, 5 years old from a previous relationship. Although they're not biologically mine, I love and adore my boys with all my heart. They're the best thing in my life, and I'm lucky to be their father. For as long as I've known Amanda, I've known that she's very distant from her family. She doesn't speak to them or about them, and if she does mention them, it's to complain about how terrible they are. Her older sister, Sandy, is a bit of a sensitive topic for her. Growing up, Amanda was always compared to Sandy, which fostered a very unhealthy relationship between them. Sandy grew up spoiled, perfect, and loved, while Amanda was rejected from her own family. To this day, Sandy still believes that she's the better sister. They do not talk. Sandy introduced Amanda to her ex-boyfriend, Mike, and the baby's father, many years ago. I won't elaborate on the specifics, but Amanda's ex-boyfriend is a total piece of crap. He treated Amanda terribly and was very hot-tempered, aggressive, and easily provoked. Nevertheless, Sandy, despite them not being together for years and Amanda having full custody of her children, believes that her ex-boyfriend is the perfect man to keep Amanda in check. At 8 a.m., Sandy and Mike showed up at our house completely unannounced. Not only was I surprised to see them, but I was also surprised at how they found out where I lived, considering that I had never told them before. Sandy said that she came to visit Amanda and her nephews. They claimed that they wanted to celebrate Amanda's birthday, which is in a month. The whole situation was highly confusing and slightly disorienting. I didn't feel comfortable letting them in, especially when Amanda wasn't home, so I refused, and I told them to come back later. When I first refused, they grew very agitated. They started to raise their voices and insist that they wait for Amanda, or at the very least, allow them to see my kids. I kept saying no and got so upset that I slammed the door and told them to leave. I assumed they would leave, but after 5 minutes I could see them still waiting in my front garden. Finally, I told them to leave or I would call the police. They quickly left. Amanda has told me that she's been receiving messages from random numbers, calling her horrible names and having a soft boyfriend. It's clearly from Sandy and Mike, since she blocked them, but the messages are pretty mean. I was talking to a friend about this situation, and they told me that I shouldn't have meddled in Amanda's family affairs. I don't want to be the reason that Amanda's being harassed. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. This isn't about meddling or family dynamics. You were protecting the children from people who did not have custody and who didn't have permission to be there. I bet they've been watching the house and knew Amanda wasn't at home. I'm sure they were trying to get the kids and take them. Really, I've always started my birthday celebrations at 8 a.m., a month prior to my birthday. Not. Wonder if they had on birthday party hats to make it more convincing. Seriously, I would have done the same thing as OP. OP, but I'd suggest you document this, and you both get a restraining order. I bet the sister's sleeping with the ex and wants to find problems at your house to report to CPS. I'd make sure everything is set up well and document everything. OP, wake up. They were there to plant drugs or similar in your home. Holy Hannah, is your friend useless? Document everything. Make a police report. Get a lawyer. File a restraining order ASAP. Get ahead of this thing. My other thought was maybe they were there to kidnap the kids. Anyway, they were there to cause harm. Treat them like lava. Don't talk to them if they show up in the neighborhood. Alert your school, caregivers, etc. They were definitely not there to celebrate her birthday. This was exactly my thought. They were agitated just being told to wait until OP's wife was back because they knew she wouldn't let them in. I assure you what they were planning was no surprise party. Please heed this advice. Report and document this, and lawyer up. Get a restraining order. Please alert the school and any after-school activities that the kids are not to be released to their aunt or baby daddy. Just make sure these people don't have access to your kids. My 26 female stepsister, whom I'll call Lilith, has been treated like royalty since my mom married her dad. Her mother died when she was 9, which is very sad and not something I hold against her, but she's now 21, and her mother's death is still being used as an excuse for her behavior, and the blatant favoritism is aggravating. I'm caught underage drinking, I get grounded for 3 months. She's caught underage drinking. She gets therapy. I get bad grades. I should have tried harder. She gets bad grades. Just a symptom of her trauma. I make a mild joke about her when she's not even there. I'm a bully. She curses and screams at me. I'm told to be nicer to my sister. My own biological mother and even my older brothers always prioritize her over me, and I'm treated as lesser than to compensate for her losing a parent. My grandmother passed a week ago, and my family's planning the funeral. We have a text chain to decide on details, and Lilith offered to do the eulogy for my mother's branch of the family. I'm named after my grandmother, and I was fairly close with her, so I always thought I would do it. So after Lilith offered, I let everyone know I'd instead do it, and explained very vulnerably in a whole paragraph why I wanted to do the eulogy for my grandmother. My mom and brothers vote for her, of course, and say instead that I can do one of the Bible readings at the funeral. But I refuse and tell them I don't want to be any part of the funeral if I can't do the eulogy. My whole life, Lilith has taken things away from me, and now she's even taking my grief away from me. She has living grandmothers, but that doesn't matter, and I need to give another thing up, because Lilith's grief comes first. My family is saying I'm petty, but I'm just so sick and tired of being a third-class citizen. Am I the idiot? Edit. My grandmother had 4 kids, so each one of their kids is giving a eulogy. One of my siblings suggested we both do it, but my mom said the funeral would get too crowded. When my grandma got really sick, I could not take care of her because I lived out of state. Lilith didn't have a job, so she was able to home care for my grandmother and was paid to do so. My mom thinks the 2 years Lilith spent with grandma in an employee capacity are more important than 26 years of her being my grandmother. Not the idiot. I'm honestly getting mad at your mom now. Why make it so difficult if this could be solved so easily? If not both, then none should hold the eulogy. This blatant favoritism of one child is sickening. Sprint up to the stand before Lilith, and then you can just use the excuse that it's too crowded for her to do her eulogy. More than one person can give a eulogy. I don't know how old you are, but if you're an adult, don't go and say goodbye to your grandmother in your own way. And remember, there is the family that you are raised by and your chosen family. You get to make your own family when you're an adult, with all kinds of different people. You're not obligated to stick with the one you initially got. Cut them off and never look back. They've already decided who they consider their true daughter and sister. Lilith has learned to weaponize her grief and use it to manipulate those around her. Live your life with those who love you and appreciate you, and don't look back. Then one day, when they hopefully realize the leech Lilith is and come crawling back to you, don't even waste your breath. I'm so sorry, love. My heart hurts for you. Sorry for your loss. You are the idiot. You're coming off as fairly deranged. Hopefully it's just due to grief. Lilith spent 9 years in your grandmother's life, and more importantly, the last 2 as a full-time caregiver. It doesn't matter that she was paid. She was there, you were not. She was closest to your grandmother in the end. Therefore, it makes sense that she does a eulogy. You trying to play her off as just a nurse is a really bad look. You blame her for turning your brothers against you. I think you might need to do a bit of self-reflection on that statement. Agree. You're 5 years older than Lilith. Why are you still in such a competition with her? Of course, people have different expectations for the older adult sibling than the teen, and parents often change how they punish behavior over time. This backstory honestly puts you in a bad light as an unreliable reporter, and the dismissal of the comfort she brought to your grandmother at the end of life is likewise gross. About 4 months ago, I went to my cousin's bachelorette party, and things got a little wild. She took a lot of pictures, including some spicy pictures of me. I asked her to delete them or crop me out, as it would be awful if images like those were ever posted publicly of me for my husband and in-laws. She told me she would, but she never did. A month ago, my husband was sent one of those pictures and told the rest would be leaked if he didn't buy the rest from the person. Luckily, he could find out who was trying to blackmail him, and the pictures have been since deleted. However, things have been tense between us ever since. I originally thought it was the cousin whose party it was and who took the pictures, but she swore it wasn't her. It turned out it was her sister. but I'm still angry at her for not deleting my pictures when I asked her to. A few days ago, we were both invited to a family dinner. She tried to talk to me, and I ignored her because I'd already made it clear I didn't want to talk to her. She still cornered me and begged me to speak to her, and told me that she was sorry for not deleting the pictures when I asked her to, but she had no way of knowing this would happen. I told her I didn't care. I still blamed her and wanted her to leave me alone. She ended up leaving the dinner early, and now my family's upset with me for not giving her a second chance when it wasn't her who blackmailed my husband. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. So they'll gloss over the fact that her sister tried and failed to blackmail your hubby? Like that isn't a felony? OP, can't you report it to the police and forgive her after she's been charged and done time? Then you can give her a second chance after she's paid her debt to society. The million-dollar question, I want to know why the heck she took those pics in the first place. She may not have used the pictures to blackmail your husband, but she was the one who took them and didn't delete them when asked to. Like it or not, she is responsible. If she hadn't taken the pictures, they wouldn't be available to be used as blackmail material. I'm so sorry your family betrayed you. Your cousin's actions indirectly affected your relationship with your husband, breaking your trust and threatening to humiliate you publicly. You don't know if your cousin and her sister lied the entire time, and they just continued to lie and gaslight after being discovered for blackmailing your husband. She can go kick rocks. It's not your job to make people who hurt you feel better about themselves. Your family can do the same if they don't like the fallout from her actions. My husband and I have 4 kids, a toddler between us, and older kids from his previous marriage, ranging all teens. Dear husband works 1 week out of town and then is home for a week. The older kids are with us when he's home, with their biological mom when he leaves to work. I have a Belgian Malinois myself. My oldest step has a 2-year-old Labrador. So here's what's up. Spring break fell on a week where dear husband is out of town, and the older kids are with their mom. So I picked up my little Sprinter to take the toddler and our Mal camping, and then to my parents' house for a few days. The oldest step was supposed to be road tripping with some friends, and the other kids were going to a more local resort with their mom. As we're out in the driveway saying goodbye to the kids before they head back to their moms, I say, see you next week. Stepson replies, we'll drop Fido, the Labrador, off on Monday, so we'll see you then. This is the first I've heard that the dog is coming back, so I said as much and pointed out that I would already be gone on Monday. He said, oh well, I guess we can just leave him now then. The Lab is a nice dog around the house, but he's not easy to travel in a Sprinter van with. He's trained well for duck hunting, which is what the kids do with him, but he's not the greatest when walking on a leash. His manners around crowds and other dogs, or manners inside a small space like a camper van. For example, he chews and non-stop bothers the female Mal if she doesn't have some place to get away from him. On the other hand, the Mal can walk in crowded public places and be virtually invisible. Long story short, I would take Fido if my husband or one of the other kids were coming along in our larger camper, but was not going to jam him into the Sprinter with what our travel agenda entitled. I told the kids I was not prepared to take the dog. They hadn't said anything to me about it to give me a chance to plan, so I wouldn't be able to watch him. Their bio mom had also made plans that were not dog friendly, so the oldest son's trip had to be cut short to watch the dog until they could get him to be boarded, and a day was cut off the resort trip for the younger kids as well. Bio mom was also peeved that it cost to board the dog. Well, logically, I don't feel like it was my responsibility to take the dog when no one bothered to ask me about it first. I do feel bad that spring break plans got thrown for a loop for the kids. Am I the idiot for not sucking it up and just jamming the extra dog in the van? Not the idiot. It seems as though when you alternate weeks with the kids, the dog goes with the kids. It was rude of them to assume that you would take the dog for a week that you wouldn't normally have it. It was poor planning on their part. The kids and mom should have asked, not just assumed they could expect you to dog sit while they were on vacation. Good for you for sticking to your plans. There's being accommodating, and then there's being taken advantage of. Better their headache than yours. Other people's planning is not your responsibility. Everyone's the idiot here. Where's their dad in all of this? He's the one who needs to establish some ground rules with Biomom about these expectations. She shouldn't be communicating with you through the kids. Dad expects the kids to ask and plan if they need something out of the ordinary. I'm sure Biomom assumed plans were already made. She's very low contact, and it makes her incredibly anxious to speak to me unless it's through the kids. So I'm sure it hit her as just as big of a surprise. Eek, that's not good. Sorry, but it is your husband's job to be in charge of that, not the kids or you. Sounds like your husband and the ex don't communicate. Not cool at all. To be clear, if it's their mom's week, then dad is out of town. Therefore, every time you keep the dog, you're free pet boarding for their mom. She's the one taking advantage of you through the steps. My 19 female, dad is retired military and is now working at a defense contracting company. My university's most common professions for kids' parents are lawyers, doctors, finance, politicians, and executives. It's very unusual to meet a student whose parents aren't in a profession like this, and there are very few military kids. Other students constantly and repeatedly make insulting assumptions about my dad and our family. They keep saying things like, "It must be rough growing up with parents who don't have the education to help you with school fees." I mentioned that my dad has 2 master's degrees, and they act like that couldn't possibly be true. And they say, "You're lucky. You must be on a ridiculous amount of financial aid if your dad's a veteran. There are so many homeless vets." I'm on no financial aid because my dad makes 6 figures, just like all their parents, and rising quickly, yet they act like he doesn't have a good job. The final straw was when we were eating dinner, and someone in the group said to me, "You probably experienced a lot of food insecurity growing up." I learned recently that people in the military are often in poverty. I was so fed up and said, "You guys realize my dad has made 6 figures in the military since I was born, and now that he's retired, he's making mid-6 figures in his defense job, and that's going up fast. We're not poor or uneducated and never have been. He has as many degrees and makes as much as all of your parents." They were like, "Wow, where did that crazy outburst come from? We're simply making conversation. Why are you so aggressive about us empathizing with your background?" So, am I the idiot here? Not the idiot. These guys sound like your stereotypical, entitled university students that sip on their lattes, pretending to care about the poor, when all they're really doing is passively one-upping everyone beneath them. Walk away from idiots like this. "Oh, nice gaslighting here. We were just having a conversation." It sucks that they're your classmates. Hopefully you have actual friends with whom you can spend time. If not, just stay strong. Keep yourself guarded around them and continue to take absolutely none of their crap. Seriously, why are they so aggressive about emphasizing your background? They are not empathizing with your background. They are patronizing and trying to virtue signal. "Oh, look at us, sympathizing with this poor peon here. Aren't we just marvelous?" No, they're not. It sounds like OP is the other in the group due to her dad's career being different than all the other dads in the group. And people who all have something in common, especially teenagers, like to have another that they can talk about to feel better than.